Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Wow, this feels like forever ago since I have filmed. As you can all see, I've got wet hair. I've literally just ran into the shower while little one is asleep and just, you know, gone to change and everything like that. So I do apologise for the state of me. Sounds like he's starting to stir, so I will be as quick as I can on these videos. So yeah, as all of you know, if you're new to my channel, I had a baby now 3 weeks ago. Actually, he's a month old this week, which is absolutely madness. I'm so overly thrilled to have him in our life. He's absolutely amazing. If you saw my bump progression, you would have been introduced to him. His name is William, and yes, he is such a sweet little boy. This video is a video that I keep getting asked a lot on my Instagram, so make sure you are following me on my Instagram at withlovehollyxo. That's where I tend to post daily pictures, updates on my stories, things like that. So make sure you are over there and following everything so that you can keep up to date with what's going on. But this video is requested a lot. A lot of people have asked me, when are you doing this video? Are you going to be doing this video? And it is my birth story. So I was very much adamant when I was pregnant not to look at people's birth stories. I was told not to judge my own birth from my own experience. But when people ask you day in, day out, you know, how did your birth go? What happened? Did you do this? Did you do that? What was your birth plan? Blah, blah, blah. I think it's worth just putting a video out there. Like, I'm really sorry, look at that. I think it's worth just putting a video out there to tell you my side of the story, how my birth went, what my birth plan actually was and what actually happened, and the time frame and everything that it was for my first baby. So let's do this, let's video and film. I will tell you as much as I can from what I can remember. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my birth plan. My original birth plan was to have a natural birth, a water birth, because I absolutely love water. I'm a bath person and I was told it'd probably be best for me. I intended on just having gas and air. I just wanted it to be completely natural in the birthing centre, so it's a lot more home from home rather than being in a ward or a labour, you know, induced and things like that. I wanted to go into like labour naturally. I didn't want to be induced unless I had to be. And yeah, you know, you get the idea. I wanted it to be really natural, really comforting, friendly, you know, happy as anything. My birth plan, my actual birth, was the complete opposite. Everything that I've just mentioned to you didn't happen in my birth. So when people say do a birth plan, definitely have an A, B and C birth plan, but I can guarantee you it's not gonna go the way you want it to go. In your head you're thinking, I want this kind of a birth, I want it to be perfect, and it is perfect. My experience was absolutely positive. Just because it didn't go to how my birth plan originally was doesn't mean it wasn't an experience that I will remember forever, and it was a positive experience. My birth, I would say, was not a negative experience. You can hear him waking up. It was not a negative experience, it was a very positive, happy, if you look at it the way I'm looking at it, experience. So let's go into the actual details of my birth when it happened. So at 39 weeks I went out and about with my mum for the day. It was just before the new lockdown had begun. I was just doing my everyday to day things. I didn't feel any different, there was nothing going on. This was a Wednesday and I came home and felt this like little gush of water. Now, when you're expecting your waters to break, you expect it to be this big whole gush, and it wasn't. And I remember texting my friend who's a midwife and saying to her, something's not quite right. I've just seen like I've just got some water come out. I'm not sure if it's just normal pregnancy discharge or if it's just my waters, I don't know. So she was like, right, send me a picture, let's have a look. And she was like, yeah, I think this is your waters, Holly, like you might want to go and get this checked out. So I rung my triage department. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm not sure if this is my waters or not. And they went, come down, let's have a look. You know, triage are really friendly, really lovely. They said, how, you know, are you full term? And yeah, 39 weeks. They were like, oh, that's brilliant, come down, pop down, we'll have a look. I hadn't had any contractions. I wasn't feeling any contractions. So I didn't think anything of it. Went down to triage and realised that the waters had actually leaked through to my jeans. So obviously I've gone into triage as I was, and they first thing they ask you to do is just show them what it is, just so they can check if it's discharge or if it is your waters. And it was quite obvious that my waters had just started to go, because they'd gone straight through to my jeans. She went, I don't even need to look anymore. She said, they are your waters, they've broken. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I was in triage, and they said to me, right, this is the option we've got. Because I hadn't actually started to go into labour, they said to me, right, you've got an option here, do you want to go home? Because labour could start within the next 24 hours, which is what they want. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go home. That's absolutely fine. I'm happy to go home, 24 hours. She said, but be prepared, this is your last night of freedom. And she explained to me that because my waters had broken, but labour hadn't actually started, that I would need to be induced if it hadn't happened within 24 hours. So she gave me signs to look out for to start going into labour. Of course, if my contractions started coming regularly, were lasting more than a minute every 3 minutes, to come straight back to the hospital. I was like, okay, that's absolutely fine, I can do that. So I got home, I was really like, you know, bouncing on my ball. I was trying to encourage it all to start. I said, come on, let's go. I wanna do this is gonna be great. Really excited and happy and like, ooh. And my waters, like, nothing else happened, no contractions, nothing was progressing. I was like, okay, that's fine. So it got to the next day, same time, 1 o'clock, and the hospital had said to me, right, if nothing happens in 24 hours, you need to come straight back here, and unfortunately you have to be induced. So much to my own reluctance and my disgust, I was like, yeah, okay, let's go and get induced. To be honest, it got to that point in the pregnancy where I was like, just get him out. I'm getting to the point, I'm like, please, I'm done being pregnant now. I'm 4'10", he's huge, I'm feeling heavy, please just get him out. So they said to me, right, we're going to induce you, but they obviously first have to check how dilated you are, if you're dilated, so they can determine what induction you need to have done. So this is Thursday. Yeah, this is Thursday. I've got to think about this now, because obviously I'm filming this a month later. So this was the Thursday. I went straight to the hospital. They, again in triage, examined me, and I was 1 centimetre dilated. So I didn't have to have the balloon induction. All I had to have was the gel to soften the cervix, and then I also went for the oxy toning drip later on. So this was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We had to wait for a couple of hours for me to get a bed in the ward so that I could go down and be induced, essentially. We went down to the labour ward around about 3-4 o'clock. I was on a ward of about 6 other people. Thankfully for me, at that point, Adam was allowed to stay. So because I was being induced, I knew I was going in at 1 o'clock and I'd be being induced. Adam was allowed to stay with me because I was being admitted, and it was 8 till 8, my hospital. He wasn't allowed to stay overnight until I had been like actually admitted for active labour. So we went down 3 o'clock, and I was bouncing on my ball. I remember eating a pack of Hula Hoops. I was, you know, able to be mobile, walking around. I had dinner. You know, I was still very active. I wasn't feeling anything. I had no contractions. I just felt absolutely normal, like absolutely fine. I didn't think I was in labour at all. And just before about 6 o'clock, the midwife came down and said to me, right, Holly, we've got a bed ready for you. We're just going to check how dilated you are, and, you know, we'll see where we're going to go. I was still only 1 centimetre dilated at this point, so not much had happened in those couple of hours that I'd been sat in the hospital after I had the gel. So it was a definite, Holly, we need to have you have to go for the full induction. I was like, that's absolutely fine. We'll do what we've got to do. If he's going to get him out, then that's fine. I'm happy with that. So this then got to about 7 o'clock in the evening, At this point, because I had now officially been admitted, I was being induced, I was going straight to my own private room to basically see if this labour was going to progress and be active. So they said, right, that's it, your partner can now stay. So that was brilliant. So Adam never left me, he never left my side. There was no reason for him to leave during any of this. So I'm really, really happy and thankful, because that was the one thing I was worried about, was my partner not being able to stay, my husband not being able to be there, and then me having to call him. No, I was really happy. So he got to stay with me, thank the Lord. And then yeah, we went straight down to our room. I had my first midwife, who was really, really lovely. She was like, right, let's just get you nice and comfortable. You know, she read through my birth plan of what I wanted and was like, looked at me and said, unfortunately, a lot of what you want, we can't actually let you have now. And I was like, that's fine, you know, we'll do what we've got to do. You know, at that point, I was just kind of thinking, I'm starting to just get tired. I just want to go to sleep. And that was it really. So we obviously went down to that room at about 7 o'clock. They put the catheter in and the drip, and that was it. They started my induction. So they kind of left me alone after that for a little while. Now normally with the induction catheter, you're still able to be mobile and active, but because the room I was in, the machine that I was plugged into, you normally have one of those walking machines. They couldn't get one, it just they weren't working. So as soon as I had that drip put in, I had to stay still. I was allowed to, I could move from like one side of the bed to the other bed. So I ended up, she just got me a bouncy ball. I sat on the ball for a little bit. I was watching Netflix, you know, a bit of Big Bang Theory on my tablet. Adam was watching TV on his. It's a very slow process. Not much was happening, not very quickly. So, you know, I was just bouncing my ball for a few hours, and then I went and got into bed, and I basically slept through that rest of that day. And so I think I slept from about 8, half 8, all the way through really, until, which I'll explain in a second. The midwife said to me when I went into the labour room, do you want the epidural? Because you're being induced, they tend to find people who have an induction say the contractions are a lot stronger and a lot intense and a lot quicker. So she said, I advise you to consider the epidural. And I was like, you know, I'm not quite sure, I'd rather have the pethidine, that's what I wanted. And she was like, okay, she's like, but if this doesn't progress, be prepared, you're going to have the epidural. So I was like, okay. I spoke to Adam about it, and in the end just turned around and said, you know what, let's do the epidural later on in the evening, while contractions aren't strong and everything, and it's easier. So this got to about 12 o'clock on Friday morning, and I'm thinking, I'm not feeling anything. Like, there's no pain, nothing. I'm just not feeling anything. And she said, right, do you want the epidural? And I said to her, but I'm not in pain. Like, I don't even need gas and air. I'm not in pain at all. And she was like, but looking at the screen, looking at my contractions, she's going, okay, that's strange. She's, because obviously my contractions were really close together. They're looking quite strong, and I'm thinking, I generally can't feel these. Like, is there something wrong? Because I can't feel it. There's no, like, I haven't got any pain relief in me, have I? And she looked at me and was like, no, you've got no pain relief. We've not given you anything to make the pain stop. So I don't know. But I still at this point was saying, no, we'll just get the epidural done. If I'm not in pain, I'll just have the epidural, and then I'm ready for any situation that happens. So at 1:30 in the morning, the guys came down and did my epidural, which was the worst experience of my life. That is probably the hardest thing I've had, or the worst thing I've had, was the epidural. It took 3 attempts to get it into my back, and I did cry. I did sit there holding Adam, like, crying. It wasn't very nice, but once it was in, it was amazing. It was pretty good until near the end, which we'll come to. Yeah, the epidural wasn't great. No, not at all. And then, yeah, I went back to sleep for a few hours. Again, I was just feeling so sleepy. That's all I can remember, was just feeling sleepy. I didn't feel like any pain. I wasn't in pain. I wasn't feeling sick or anything. I was just tired. So I went back to sleep for a few hours. again till the next morning, till about 6 o'clock that morning. And obviously coming into Friday, we woke up, we had the next midwife change. The next midwife again, she was the midwife that I had all through the day, that she said to me, Holly, I want to be here for this birth, so we're going to have to make sure he comes. She said he will be here today, no, not even a doubt about it. So this is obviously now approaching day 3 of being in labour. Obviously we consider labour as active labour, so from the point that I was admitted, and it worked out nearly 29 hours that I was in active labour, but obviously then you got 24 hours prior to that, so we're just not going to count that. So this is Friday morning. Again, still no pain, nothing. So they did the internal checks in the morning to see how we were progressing, what's going on. And I was about 2 centimetres dilated. So that's after, so I had the induction at about 7-8 o'clock in the evening, and I only increased in dilation by 1 centimetre the next day. So it wasn't a big progression, and they were all really shocked, because when you're looking at the screen where obviously baby's being monitored and you're being monitored, they're like, there's something not right, like, you know, your contractions are perfect, but you're telling us you can't actually feel what's going on. And even Adam kept looking at me going, Holly, you're not in pain, what's going on? And I'm like, I can't feel it. All I can feel is him having a wriggle about every now and again. I cannot feel any pain. There's no pain there whatsoever. There's just nothing happening. And I kept saying it and kept telling them that, and I was like, I don't think it's going to progress. I really don't think it's going to happen. And I told my midwife weeks beforehand about cesarean, and said I think he's going to come by cesarean. I don't think he's going to be a natural birth. You know, so I'd kind of prepared in my head that he was coming by cesarean. He was not going to come naturally at all. Again, I slept and slept and slept. The doctors then came round in the morning at about 9 o'clock, and they then did a first check. And they were like, right, you're about 2 to 3 centimetres dilated. So I thought, oh, okay, we've increased by a centimetre again. That's great. It's in like 2-3 hours. That's much better than it was prior. And the midwife was like, oh, this is really good. It's, you know, you're coming into 3 centimetres. Let's see if we can keep getting this progressing. And then we had like a switchover midwife who just covered her lunch, my midwife's lunch break, or just her break. And she obviously like felt around my tummy and felt to see where baby was and what he was doing. And she was like, are we sure that he's head down? And I was like, yeah. I said, we've had a load of checks done and I can feel his bum's here. She was like, I'm not so sure he's head down. So that then worried the midwives and that my midwife even more, because she doubted herself then, thinking, oh god, what has he turned around, what's going on? He was head down because you could feel his head. So they then had to get a sonographer come in with a portable scan machine and come and scan to see where he's sitting, because they were all panicking that he'd turned around, his legs were down, and then they would have just gone straight for the cesarean. And he was still head down. He was still exactly where he should be, but the problem was it looks as if he started to turn his head. So rather than the back of his head being down, he'd started to turn his face to the side, which explains a lot with my child, because he sleeps like that now. So my main midwife, she came back off her lunch. We had a bit of a chat about what we think is going to happen. So this is then at about 10 o'clock. The doctor's done their checks and they've said 2 to 3. And then they then did another check after they'd done this scan to see what's going on. This is a separate doctor, and they said, no, I still think you're only 2 centimetres. By this point, I'm tired. I'm getting a bit fed up with being just laying in a bed, because I wasn't allowed to get up, walk around, move. I wanted to be able to be so active during that labour, and I couldn't. And obviously if I needed a wee, it was coming out of a catheter, it wasn't coming out of me. I couldn't just get up and go and do something. I had to just lay there, and it was just getting so too much. My back was starting to hurt because I was just sitting there doing nothing. At this point, they said to me, right, just try and do a bit of the epidural to see if we can ease the backache and everything. I was like, okay, that's fine, go ahead. And in the end, I said to my midwife, this was at about 11 o'clock, I said, look, I think it's best I have a cesarean now. I don't think it's going to progress anymore. I'm not feeling any pain. There's no contractions coming that I can feel. You can see them, I can't feel them. I think enough is enough now. I can't do this anymore. And my midwife actually agreed. She said, no, I agree with you. I think it's best for you, for the amount of time you've been in labour and the fact that my waters had broken quite early in, so on the Wednesday, they were very conscious that they needed to get him out. He was getting to the last part of the safety hours before it becomes infections. Obviously at this point the waters had broken. They'd just literally, while they did the last sweep, they broke the rest of my waters, and that happened within seconds. And they said, right, we're going to give you like a couple more hours. So this obviously is 10, 11 o'clock. Then they said, we're going to come back at 1:30, 2 o'clock and check if you've dilated anymore. If you've dilated anymore, then we're going to let you continue naturally as you are, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll have your baby naturally. At this point, I was adamant. I said, no, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm ready to have the cesarean. I'm giving you my consent now. Let's just do it. Adam was saying to me, no, Holly, look, let's do what the doctor's saying. Have a couple of hours, go to sleep for a little bit, see if this progresses. And I was adamant. I was like, no, it's not going to happen. I'm just getting annoyed now because I know my body. I know what's going on. And I just felt like the doctors weren't listening to me. The midwife was listening, but the doctor wasn't. And I was just getting more and more frustrated with the doctor. I was like, look, I know my body. I know what's going on. I can't feel these contractions that you guys are looking at on the screen. You know, Adam's even looking at these contractions and going, Holly, what is going on? Why can you not feel them? And like, even he's questioning the doctor and the midwife. Why can't she feel what's going on? He was still happy away though. Baby was absolutely fine. His heartbeat was perfect. He was moving around. There was no concern with him. Hence why they were saying, let's leave it a couple of hours. So it got to 1:30, they came and done the next checks. I was just uncomfortable by this point. I wasn't, again, no pain. I was just uncomfortable. I just wanted to get up and move or just get him out because it was just getting ridiculous. They did the check again, did an internal exam again, and I was still 2 centimetres, not even slightly progressed at all. And they said, right, this is your time now. What do you want to do? And I said, cesarean. I'm done. Let's just do it. They said, right, okay, we'll get you in as soon as we can. Obviously, we have to let emergencies come through first, and then we're going to get you down. The midwife was like, do you want a cup of tea? Do you want to just, chill for a little bit? So I had a cup of tea. I was, chatting away with my midwife. I got, I think, another couple of hours sleep, about another hour or so sleep. And then the midwife and the anaesthetist, the doctor and the midwife all came down together. They all turned around and said to me, right, we're going to just do the chat now of what's going to happen with a cesarean. We're prepping you, getting you ready. You had an epidural, and yep, had the epidural. So I was pretty much ready to go. I just had to be taken down, taken the machine out, and off I go. So this was then at about 5:30. They took me down after giving me the long chat of a cesarean, of the risks and what's going to happen and everything like that. So anyone who's never had a cesarean doesn't know what a cesarean is. Obviously, a cesarean is where they cut open your tummy and deliver the baby via your tummy. It's a big operation. It's something that, my recovery, which I will talk about later on in this video, has been quite tough. It's not something that I would definitely advise if you don't have to have it, but in my situation it had just got to the point we were not progressing and he was getting to that not safe point. So I made that decision myself. The cesarean went really well. I was on the table and they did the epidural side of it, and the complete anaesthetic numbed me out. All they kept saying to me was like, Holly, can you lift your legs up? And I was like, try and lift my legs. Like, I think I'm lifting them. They were like, okay, that's absolutely fine. Then they do the pressure test. Can you feel this? Can you feel that? No, can't feel this, can't feel that. Then they do a heat test, so they have like this cold spray can and spray it on your arm, because obviously you can feel your arms, and that's what it needs to feel like. This is what it feels like. I'm going to spray it on your rest of your body, tell me what you can feel, and you have to tell them if it's hot, cold, or they're exactly the same as what it feels like on your arm. Did all that. I was completely numb. I had no idea at this point that what was going on. All I kept saying to them was, I've got all this pressure in my like I can feel pressure going in my tummy and it feels really weird. I don't like it. And they were like, no, that's absolutely fine. That's just us just having a little prod and poke around. Don't worry, we haven't cut you open just yet. I was like, okay, thank God for that. I did have slight issue with the epidural before I went into the C-section. What had happened was, because I wasn't administering the epidural like pain relief like every half hour or hour, the actual anaesthetic side of it started to wear off, so I was starting to feel the epidural in my back, and it was so painful. I was crying. Like they were the only two reasons I cried in this pregnancy, in that labour, was those two things of the epidural. It was so painful, and honestly, but an epidural itself is incredible. It's amazing. The pain relief is perfect, but the actual side of having it, I did not like. I was not keen on any of it. So I was starting to get a lot of pain, and the anaesthetist had to come down in the end and just put a little injection in just to numb my back. So that was that. Sorry, I forgot all about that. And then yeah, but getting back to the cesarean, I was laying on the table. They said to me, do you want any music playing? At this point, I started to feel a bit strange. So I remember shaking like quite strong, quite uncontrollably strong, which again is something really normal and really common, by the way, so don't be too scared about that. I was just like really shaking, with my lips were shaking on my arms, and like I can remember my head just being a bit shaky. I'm not sure if it's a combination of the medication and also nerves and things like that, because it's surgery. I've never had a surgery before. It's my first ever time having something like that, so I didn't know what to expect. Adam again was still with me. He sat by my side. They had the screen up and they said, "You've got any music you want to be played?" At this point, because I couldn't go to my bag or anything, could I said to Adam, you can go and get my phone if you like, but it's locked away in the thing. So he would have had to have left the room, got changed again. It just wasn't worth it. I said, no, do you know what? It's absolutely fine. So instead we were all just chatting away. Adam was chatting away to the guys doing the surgery, and the guys that were doing the surgery were great. They were all having a laugh and we were all having a right giggle, and that was incredible. They were such lovely people. And then obviously they delivered William and held him up and was like, here's your baby. And both me and Adam just looking at each other, just crying. It was absolutely wonderful experience, and because they made everything so relaxed and friendly in there, it was the most incredible positive experience I could have imagined for an operation. People were saying to me, oh, it's not the same experience as a vaginal delivery, but honestly it was so positive. And I still felt that empowerment, that I was still in control of my body. They weren't doing anything to me that I didn't consent to. They didn't make me feel like I had no control over my body. They asked me so many questions if I wanted to do this, that, and it was great. The only problem I found was, as soon as he was born, obviously I couldn't hold him. Two reasons being, one, because obviously I couldn't hold him with my arms. And secondly, because I started to feel very sick just before he arrived. So they were pumping the anti-sickness drugs into me as quickly as they could, but I started to just feel really strange. I remember just closing my eyes and saying, I don't feel well, I really don't feel very good. And they took William away to go and weigh him, and I remember what happened, and I remember everything that was going on in the room, but at that moment it was like an out-of-body experience. It was as if I was like 2 or 3 seconds behind everybody else. And Adam kept talking to me while this is all going on, and he kept saying, I've got William, he's here, he weighs this, he's doing that, I've chopped his umbilical cord. He was still talking to me throughout this whole thing, but I just remember being so drugged out and like glazed that I just closed my eyes and was like, I'm really not doing very well. So Adam took William, he, you know, held him throughout the whole of it, and then they drugged me with the anti-sickness and said to me, you know, do you want to feed him? At this point I was so knocked out, I couldn't respond. I just couldn't talk to them. Every time they were talking to me or trying to explain something to me, I was just so like glazed, and I just couldn't pick up on anything that was being said. So they said to me, look, we're not going to explain anything that's going on now, we're going to wait until Holly's come around a little bit, or come tomorrow, and we'll talk to her then with what's happened. Everything's gone really well. It's completely fine and normal to feel that way, to be sick. It's absolutely fine. I wasn't actually physically sick, which is really good. But yeah, I remember they then took me to the recovery, which is literally in the same room as the surgery. Essentially, you just got a curtain just so the doctors can keep an eye on you to see how you're getting on. And because I wasn't feeling very well, I had to stay there. Adam still had William. He was like that. They said to me, do you want to feed him? And I said, I don't think I can at the minute. I feel really poorly, feel really sick. And they said, no, that's absolutely fine. And they got a bottle for Adam, and he fed William via a bottle. It only took about half an hour from that, obviously being so stitched up and everything like that, which I didn't even know was going on. They did it so quickly. For me, for the birth, that was like an hour. I didn't even notice what was going on. I was so like just knocked out in that sense. I wasn't really there. I wasn't really paying much attention to anything. So I was in the recovery. I started to wake up after half an hour, and I said, I feel a lot better now. And they said, right, let's have a cup of tea. You know, sit up. We'll sit you up, have a cup of tea. And that was the first time I got to properly cuddle him and hold him. And they said to Adam, when they gave him to him, you know, do you want skin-to-skin contact with baby? And Adam said, look, she's not very well. Holly's not very well. She's not been able to hold him. She's not been able to have the labour that she wanted. She's been in labour for near enough 3 days. I'm going to let her have that moment, that first moment of skin-to-skin with him. And yeah, it was incredible. Like, I get a bit like emotional talking about that, because it's such a wonderful and positive experience. But these are not sad tears, these are such happy tears. I remember holding him onto my skin, feeling just so much love, and just like, wow, he's come from me. So he was born at 6:55 on Friday, the 30th of October, weighing £8.11. So he wasn't going to come naturally, girls. I'm 4'10". He was not coming naturally, and it was just the way it was supposed to be. That whole birth was. So obviously, once I started to feel better, I sat up, had some food, had a drink, had a cup of tea, and was just held him for what felt like, you know, minutes, but it was a lot longer. Once I started to feel much better, and all my test results and that came back, I was allowed to then go to the recovery, to the postnatal ward. This was the point that Adam wasn't allowed to stay, so he was allowed to come up to the ward with me to bring all my stuff, but he was only allowed to put my stuff down, then had to leave, which broke my heart because I just wanted him there. This was nearly 8 o'clock, so it was past the visiting hours now. And this is the side of my birth that I'm going to say was my most negative experience. Don't be scared by this if you are intending on or having a planned cesarean, or if you have an emergency cesarean. Just because this is what happened to me doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. I was taken up to the postnatal ward, moved onto the bed, and they put William in one of those side cots next to me. Literally left my stuff as it was. I couldn't reach anything. It's not like I could go to my nappy bag and get a nappy for him, or get anything out for William that was in his bag. Nobody offered to give me, help me or anything. I wasn't told that if I wanted anything to ring the buzzers. Nothing. So I sat in the bed on my own, and I'm thinking, right, what do I do now? I can't move. I couldn't. It was that bad. They didn't even give me the remote to move the bed, so I couldn't even sit myself up or down. So as a first time mum and somebody who's never had surgery, never had a baby before, I didn't know that you had to ring the buzzer for the nurses to come down. So a nurse came down to check on me about 3 hours after I had William. Thankfully he slept for those first 3 hours, so I didn't need to pick him up or anything like that. They said to me, do you want to try and feed him? And I said, yes, if I can, that'd be lovely. And the doctor and the nurse, they sat with me, and we've realised quite quickly and quite soon that he had tongue tie. He wasn't latching, he couldn't latch. So we attempted it a few times, it wasn't working. He was just getting more and more wound up and hungry. So the nurse said to me, look, I'm going to go and get a bottle. We're going to try him on formula for now, just so we can get some food into him. Reluctantly I was like, okay, yeah, no worries, that's absolutely fine. I didn't get given the option to express. They didn't tell me to express or anything like that. They literally, that one attempt to breastfeed was the only attempt I had. What made me laugh though was in his cot that he was next to me, there was a little leaflet pamphlet of how tells you how to breastfeed your baby. Now, again, as somebody who's never done it before, I have no idea. I'm reading this like breastfeeding like instruction manual, and I'm attempting it and trying everything I can to get him to latch, and he just couldn't do it. He just could not latch onto me, and I was getting upset and he was getting more and more upset. So I had him in my arms. He was crying and crying and crying. I'm thinking, I need help. What do I do? And I rang the buzzer. I said to the midwife, like, I can't move, I can't do anything. And the nurse that came down in the end, she was very, I don't know if it's because they were short staffed and what's going on with COVID and everything like that they were just under so much pressure, and the wards and that were quite busy and full. She looked at me as if I should be doing it on my own. And I'm looking at this nurse and I'm going, would you mind just taking him and putting him back in bed? Because I couldn't even lift myself or lift him to move and turn and put him down. And she looked at me as if I had done something wrong in that sense. And I felt really bad because I couldn't even pick up my son while he was crying, because I just could not move to do this. And that nurse made me feel even worse because I couldn't do it. So it was a couple of hours later. This is during the night. Obviously I'm on a busy ward. There's about 6 other women with us who've also got babies. We had one lady on the ward who slept through her baby's crying, and she was causing a bit of a riff-raff and a bit of a kerfuffle in the ward because obviously her baby was screaming and screaming and screaming and screaming, and she wasn't soothing the baby because she was sleeping. Which, some women are like that. But the other women that I was with on the ward, they didn't like it and they were kicking off. So that didn't help. Plus you've obviously got the normal thing of when one baby starts, they all start. So it'd be like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. William wasn't very screamy. He didn't scream very much on the ward. It was only every now and again he'd stir, and the cot next to me was like a moving cot, so you could like push him and he was fine. It then got to about 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, and I was thinking, right, he needs to be fed now, he's starting to stir. I pressed the buzzer and no nurse turned up, and I was like, right, he's crying. I can't let him just cry and cry and cry. You just want to be able to pick them up, feed them, do everything, and I know that he probably wants his bum changed and things like that. I couldn't reach my bag because the bag was all the way, so my bed was here, his cot was there. I had like a table behind me which was not even, I couldn't reach it with my arm. It was boiling hot as well on that ward, oh my god. And I was thinking, I need to get my stuff, and I pushed the buzzer 3 times and no nurse came to see me. I was just getting more and more annoyed, and I was thinking, what is going on? Because I don't know what the procedure is, I don't know if I'm supposed to be getting up or not. So in the end, I forced myself to get up. So this is obviously, so I had the operation at 6:55, and 2 o'clock in the morning I got up. It took everything in my power to do it, but I did it. I managed to sit up, like hoik myself up because I couldn't reach the remote to push the bed up. Eventually, because I was able to sit up, I leant over and managed to reach right at the end of the bed to pick the remote, to lower the bed and push me up like that. Twisted my legs to the side, you know, it was so painful and I was crying doing it. But I was like, I need to do it because I can't reach his nappy bag, I can't reach him, I've just got to do it, I've just got to get up. So I ended up standing up, grabbing his nappy bag, and I put the fan on that was next to me, and put his nappy bag basically on the table that, you know, you use for your food. Put that on there so I could reach it. I didn't care about anything I had. I was still wearing the hospital gown that obviously for the surgery. I had a catheter in still. They'd literally just put like a sanitary towel underneath me and left me. So I obviously stood up and had to sort all that out. I couldn't put knickers on because you are so swollen after a cesarean that it wasn't going to work that way. I wasn't going to be able to get dressed properly after that. All I wanted to do was go and put my nightie on, put a pair of knickers on and get myself comfortable. That was my plan. That's what I always wanted to do after I had him. I even wanted to have a shower. I was just like, I just want to go and be clean and fresh. No. So I was hot, sticky, had just had surgery, swollen, felt crap because the pain relief was starting to wear off. I had William at one point crying. He needed to be fed. I hadn't bought enough formula to cover feeding because I expected to breastfeed and I couldn't breastfeed him. I had no help in after that of breastfeeding, which was really poor from the hospital, I felt, in that sense. Again, no nurses were appearing. I'd rung the buzzer the 4th time, no nurses. So I attempted to pick William up, and once I'd picked him up, obviously my legs were shaking because I was in so much pain, and I was holding him, and you know, trying to get myself back into bed was the hardest thing I've ever done. After the 5th buzzer, I was still stood up because I couldn't manoeuvre myself to sit back down or put him down. You know, I'm crying as well. I'm standing there just crying because I couldn't do it. At one point I was tempted just to say to one of the other girls opposite me, like, could somebody just help me put the baby down? But they were all in the same position as me. They were all trying to sleep. Their babies were all crying and they were all trying to tend to their own babies, so I didn't want to bother them. And then finally the nurse appeared. Again, the same nurse that looked at me like what was I doing? She then turned around and said to me, why are you standing up? And I said, because nobody came. I rang the buzzer 4 times. And she was like, okay, well, what do you need? And I was like, I need some formula and a bottle if that's okay, because I need to feed him. I'm trying to breastfeed him and it's not working. Not do you want me to help you? You know, should I help you with your breastfeed? Should we see if we can get him to latch again? No, nothing. So off she went. She went and got me some more formula and a bottle and a hot cup of water to warm it all up, basically. Came back about 10-15 minutes later. She eventually took William off of me so I could get back into bed. Didn't help me at all. She kind of just stood there staring at me, so I did it myself. I eventually got comfortable enough, and then she handed William back to me and I fed him. She then disappeared. So again, I was sat there left on my own just feeding him. About 10-15 minutes later he finished feeding and I was holding him. He was asleep and it was lovely, and I just wanted to put him down so I could just get myself all relaxed. No. Rung the buzzers, nothing. Didn't even come to find me. So I stupidly and reluctantly put him next to me. Like, I had a separate pillow, like a pregnancy pillow. I put him on that so that I could just sit back for 5 minutes and just like compose myself to think, well, I need to try and get up again and put him back. Thankfully, a second nurse came round because she was doing my medication. So she came round with my pain relief. This is a different nurse completely. and she said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not," and explained to her what was going on and the fact that I've been ringing the buzzers and no nurses are coming to me. And she sat with me for a little bit. She helped me with William. She picked him up. She got me bits from my bag. She got my mobile phone, my tablet. Because I hadn't had my mobile phone with me. I couldn't text or call anybody. I couldn't put my phone on charge. I couldn't reach the plugs to put anything on charge. And I said, I don't know what to do. I'm trying all this stuff. Nurses aren't actually coming to me, and it's making me really upset. And I didn't know what to do. I said I wanted to breastfeed, and he's not latching, and nobody's helping me with that. So she said, "Look, let me stay with you for a little bit. Let's see if we can do this." So we tried to latch him again. It wasn't working. And she said, "Look, my advice to you is, while you're here, for however long you're going to be here, just bottle feed him. When the doctors come around tomorrow, we can talk to them about the tongue tie, and we can talk to them about the fact that he's not latching and anything like that." And I said, "That's fine." And she was so lovely. She helped me out as much as she could. I think she was just a standard nurse. She wasn't a midwife or anything like that. She was just so lovely. She put William back down in his cot for me. I said, just keep ringing the buzzer if you need anything. Try not to get up. By this point, I was thinking, do you know what? I'm going to try and get up. I'm just going to keep trying to get up. It says on the NHS website, once you've had a cesarean, to try and get up as soon as you can after birth. So that's what I did. I started getting up, and it started to get a little bit easier and easier, and I could walk around. And once the pain relief started to kick in, I felt a lot better in the sense I could get up a little bit more. I remember texting my mum throughout the night and saying to her what was going on and everything like that, and she was really annoyed because I was just left. Essentially, I was just left to get on with my new baby and get on with what was going on, and it wasn't the best treatment in terms of the postnatal recovery side. And then my mum said to me, give Adam a text. What time does he come in? He said 8 o'clock in the morning. Adam will be here. I text him and said, "Look, can you do me a favour? Can you go and get him some more formula, and bring me a couple of bottles in that have been sterilised?" He said, yeah. He did all that for me. He got everything I needed, and he got there the next morning at 8 o'clock. So I didn't see anybody until the next morning. So I saw the nurse, obviously, the 2 times that I buzzed, well, more than that. I buzzed for her, and she came to me 2 times, and I had the one lady that came and did the medication. So I had 3 visits throughout the night, and that was it. Left alone. I was also on a bed right by the door, so the light was always on, which was so frustrating, as I couldn't go to sleep because it was bright. And then the next morning, the actual doctors came round at 9 o'clock, and they were like, "Right, Holly, you're going to be going home today." And I was like, "You what? I've only had surgery 24 hours ago and I'm going home. I thought I was going to be here for a few days." And they said, no, you're, all your vitals have come back perfect. You look absolutely fine, in sense that you look healthy and happy. And they said to me, "Right, have you been able to stand up yet?" And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "Right, okay, perfect." So they said to me, "Right, just stand up for me. Let's have a look." I stood up. And they said, "Yep, absolutely fine. So you're able to stand up. Do you feel okay on your legs?" I was like, "Yeah, I feel absolutely fine." And then they turned around and said to me, "Have you been for a wee yet?" And I said, "No, because I've still got the catheter and that in." They said, "Right, what we're going to do is take that out, and then what we need you to do is go and have a wee. When you're ready, have a cup of tea and everything like that. Go and have a wee, and then we can test your wee to see if everything's okay." So that happened quite quickly, and he was like, "You're going to be going home at some point today." I was like, "Yes." He said, "It's also, we want you to go home because you're going to do better at home. On a ward, you've got, as I was saying, loads of different people on there, screaming babies. At home, I've got my husband, I've got my own bed, I'm going to be a lot happier and more comfortable and do a better recovery at home." Which in my head, I was actually like, "Do you know what? That sounds really good. I can't wait to go home." But then I'm also thinking, is that too soon to be going home? Should I maybe stay for a couple more days just so that I can be monitored and see how I get on? But the doctors were fairly convinced, "No, you're going home. Go home, enjoy your baby, enjoy your new life at home." So I was there pretty much all day, but I have to say, at 9:30 when the lady comes around with my toast. That was the first proper meal I ate after having William, was the toast, and it was the best toast I've ever had in my life. I then had the catheter removed. They did all that, perfect. Adam then said to me, right, oh, should we get you dressed, because you're still in the gown from yesterday, you're boiling hot, you're sweaty, let's get you out of that. I wanted to go and have a shower, and I didn't know if I could go and shower, because again, Adam can even tell you, no nurse came to check on me whatsoever, not even come round in the morning to see how I was getting on, nothing. They literally came round at about 12 o'clock, just before lunch, with my medication, and that was it. So I don't know what happened in that way. I don't know what happened with the nurses on those shifts, but it was not good. It was not an experience that I want to go through again. And yeah, we stayed there all day. You know, Adam got to cuddle William all day, and I got to get dressed. All the clothes I brought with me, now this is another video I will do with what I actually used in my hospital bag, but I ended up wearing my maternity clothing, so I couldn't even put on normal knickers. Like, I'm not even joking, girls. I had to go and put on my pregnancy cycling shorts, put my maternity pad in that, and wear them as knickers, because the knickers that I took with me, because I was so swollen from the surgery and so much water and everything like that, nothing would go over my tummy. Even though I only looked about 6 months pregnant, the swelling was so massive that I just couldn't put anything on it. My bum, my legs, the lot, it was awful. My legs doubled in size from the amount of water and the drugs and everything like that. So I managed to get my maternity clothes that I had back on, and I was actually really comfortable. I was like, alright, I feel really good and comfortable in this outfit. And yeah, I got back into bed. Adam put my socks on for me, put my shoes on and everything like that, and they discharged me that on the Saturday night at 7 o'clock. They said, right, you can go home. It's been 24 hours since you've had the surgery. You can now go home. So I was absolutely over the moon. I was only in hospital for 24 hours after I had him, and that was it. Home time for me. It was so strange, because obviously we're thinking, oh my god, like, we can't wait to go home and put him, you know, get him in his basket and everything like that. It was the hardest first night we've ever had. He didn't settle great. He would only settle like being cuddled, and it's only natural. He's just come out of my womb. He just wanted to be close to me and close to Adam. So we had a lot of time together. We all cuddled. We didn't sleep very much that night, and yeah, that was it. That's my birth story. I'm sorry if it like rambles on a little bit. Like, I know while I'm filming this, I'm trying to remember things that happened because it's like a month ago. But yeah, that was my birth experience. So I would say overall the experience was really positive. The actual birth, the induction, everything, it was a lot better and a lot more positive than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't the birth plan that I wanted, and it wasn't the birth that I intended on having, but I would not change him for the world. He is so amazing, and obviously we're now a month in, he's changing so much. He's getting bigger, he's changing in his facial expressions, his sleeping's getting better, he's got colic, we have got a tongue tie appointment to have that sorted. He's also got slight jaundice, so we've got all these little things that we're still contending with at the minute. But overall, the actual midwives and the labour side of my birth was incredible, amazing. It was just unfortunate that, I believe probably because of COVID and the pressure that the nurses were having, that the care after the cesarean was not great. But don't let that scare you. You know, don't let that put you off a cesarean. It didn't matter. I was in a ward of women that were having vaginal births, and they were exactly the same. They hadn't had the midwives come and see them. The lady next to me, she was trying to breastfeed and couldn't, and was getting more and more upset and worked up. And it took for the doctor the next day before she'd been seen by somebody, because they just left her to it. And that was awful. Hearing her just getting so upset was horrible. And yeah, we were just all kind of just left on our own. I don't know if it's because our vitals were okay and we weren't a concern that we were just left, but it wasn't very nice. I was kind of glad that I did get to go home after 24 hours so that I didn't have to stay with those nurses or stay on that ward. But all of us got sent home the same day. All of us got sent home 24 hours. And yeah, that was it. That was how my hospital operated. In terms of COVID, it was as if nothing was going on, really. You know, we were all tested for COVID when we went in. All of it, I came back negative, so that was absolutely fine. The hospital was lovely and clean. It was absolutely fine. There was nothing different really about the hospital than what it is normally, other than the fact that your partners can't always stay throughout the whole thing. I was just very lucky that my timescale was bang on where it needed to be. So yeah, that's my birth story. That is what happened. That's how William came into the world. I hope you all enjoyed this video and got something out of this. If you're having a baby in the next couple of weeks or days and you're a bit nervous and not quite sure, just go with the flow. Go with what your body's telling you. You know your body better than anybody else. If you were somebody doing hypnobirthing, I was still very much practicing hypnobirthing techniques, breathing exercises, relaxation, you know, telling my brain positive affirmations. Still use all that. Go in with the mindset that everything's going to be absolutely fine, and I can guarantee you it will be, no matter how your baby comes into the world. It's going to be the most amazing experience. It's something you're never ever going to forget. And just listen to your body. Do exactly what your body is telling you to do. If you think something's not right, speak up and say, I don't agree with what you're saying. And just trust what the doctors and midwives are telling you. They know what they're doing. And just enjoy the experience. Enjoy every little section of it as you can. And that's it. That's all I can tell you all. Just go for it. So thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, give it a big thumbs up. And do hit the subscribe button and follow me on Instagram at xoxo if you want to see more up-to-date things of what's going on. I don't think I'll be posting very much on here for a little while. I have got a couple of videos planned, especially towards what I did use in my hospital bag, and also a 6-week recovery on a C-section. I'm not going to do that recovery side until I've actually completed it myself, because it's still ongoing and it's still changing and things are happening. So I'm just going to go now because I'm rambling and my hair is getting more and more wet on my shoulder. Mum life. I had to have a quick shower before he woke up, so. But thank you all so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!